Hey, rock stars, let's talk about Pacific Ropes, Canada's trusted leader in work at height solutions. When the job is tough, the location is challenging, and the stakes are high, anything you can't get to, they can. Pacific Ropes doesn't just give you access to hard-to-reach locations. They bring the expertise to fix, maintain, and repair whatever you need, right there on the rope. Whether it's welding, mechanical repairs, inspections, or installations, they'll handle it all without the cost and hassle of scaffolding. With over 40 years of experience, Pacific Ropes has become the go-to partner for industries like construction, infrastructure, oil and gas, and turbines. They've mastered the art of combining technical know-how with rope access to deliver results where others can't. Their teams are trained to tackle a wide range of tasks, from repairing turbine blades and inspecting critical infrastructure to welding and installing netting systems. They'll do it all efficiently, safely, and with minimal disruption to your operations. When it comes to challenging locations, Pacific Ropes doesn't just make the impossible possible, they'll make it practical. Anything you can't get to, they can, and they'll fix it too. From maintenance and mechanical repairs to structural welding and custom installations, Pacific Ropes delivers comprehensive solutions that save you time and money by working directly on the rope. No scaffolding, no delays, just results. Ready to see how Pacific Ropes can take your operation to the next level? Visit www.pacificropes.com or email projects@pacificropes.com. Pacific Ropes, when access is the challenge, they bring the solution. Welcome to episode 216 of the Business Development Podcast. And today I sit down with CR Holmes, a visionary entrepreneur whose journey is nothing short of incredible. From pioneering the music industry with Your Beat Inc., a platform built to empower artists and revolutionize music monetization, to living in China and finding himself on the front lines in Wuhan during the COVID-19 outbreak. Stick with us. You are not going to want to miss this episode.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Welcome to episode 216 of the Business Development Podcast, and today is my absolute pleasure to bring you CR Holmes. CR is a visionary leader and dynamic entrepreneur. He stands at the forefront of the music and entertainment industries with his groundbreaking ventures Your Beat Inc. and Shanghai Shadow Envision Models and Photography Co. As the CEO and founder of Your Beat, CR is revolutionizing the music landscape by creating a secure platform that empowers artists, connects fans, and ensures robust copyright protection. His mission is clear: to build a thriving music community where creativity flourishes, personal data remains private, and artists receive the recognition they deserve. With a wealth of skills ranging from photography and live event production to business analysis and advertising, CR brings a multifaceted approach to his innovative enterprise. In addition to his transformative work in the music industry, CR's leadership extends to the modeling and visual media sectors through Shanghai Shadow Envision, where he manages a diverse talent pool and collaborates with top-tier movie producers, creating compelling brand promotions and market expansions. His dedication to excellence is evident in his award-winning documentary work and his ability to manage complex production sites efficiently. CR Holmes is not just a business leader. He's a catalyst for change, driving the music and entertainment industries forward with passion, creativity, and an unwavering commitment to making every deal mutually beneficial. In the world of entertainment, CR Holmes is a force to be reckoned with, pushing boundaries and setting new standards of success. CR, it's great to have you on the show.
Oh, I really glad to be here. I really appreciate your podcast. And I think it's a good thing for a lot of businesses.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that immensely. And I know we've definitely had our struggles getting this particular show going. And I greatly appreciate your patience in the matter.
Oh, it's all good. We're good to go. Imagine a world where artists can actually make enough money to pay all of their monthly bills while keeping all their rights and connecting with their fans on a deep and personal basis. Regardless of what platform that pays artists, never get a fair share of the money that they earn, even after sometimes spending decades refining it. On top of that, as artists develop, there are no solid support networks for them to learn, progress, or positively network within. Our entire platform revolves around the artist and not their music. We have built an entire community, a music city, with the artist as the focus. We're fully aware that artists need an entire village around them to reach their fullest potential, and we have created exactly that. From connections with venues, to deals with vendors, to ways to make your fans feel important and loved. Your beat is where the music lives.
Amazing. And I can't wait to chat with you about that all. But CR, you have an absolutely next level story. You have an absolutely amazing journey. And I want to spend some time there today because there's so much great information in the journey. You had an incredible trip to China, and we're going to chat about that. But, take us back to the beginning. Who is CR Holmes? How did you end up on this path?
Oh, there's so much to fit into that question. It is probably more than the book worth of answers. How do I set that down in a short period? I had a difficult childhood. I left home at 16 because it was a very abusive childhood. I finished school on my own, paying my own bills. And then I went into the music industry. That was my first job outside of school. When I finished school, I graduated, I went into the music industry. I did a tour with a company up and down the interior of BC. Really enjoyed it, had a blast. And I must have done something right because I immediately got hired to go to another music company in Winnipeg, in Canada. And I worked with them to do the Big Valley Jamboree, which is a large event. And some people might know. And then we did the Calgary Stampede, which a lot of people probably know. And we also did the Rolling Stones in Winnipeg Blue Bomber Stadium, which some people might know, which was great. I had a blast at everything. Like, I really enjoyed the industry, and I was having fun doing that. And at the end of that, I kind of got a call out to go to Toronto, and I really wanted to go out there anyways because my real dad was out there. So I went out there to work with a company that was the largest outdoor stage in Canada. It's called Molson Park, and it's about an hour north of Toronto. And I worked there for 3 years. I really enjoyed that. Then I worked with Christy Lights and Precision Sound. So I've had a lot of experience here and there and everywhere in the music industry. And then I got into computers after that because I wanted a little bit more stability. And then after that, I got into the Air Force, Canadian Air Force. I was in the Air Force for 13 years. I'm an avionics systems technician. I fix computers and electronics on aircraft, but I am not certified according to the Canadian government. Though I fixed their planes for 13 years, but I'm not certified to do it. So when I got out and wanted to join Air Canada or WestJet or, a regular company, they all went, "Oh, I love your, 10 years of logbooks that you give us, but go get a certification at NATE and talk to us later."
Wow.
And so I was like, well, after 10 years, I was going to have to take 2 years of school. And I went, and afterwards, I would be hired as a as the basic apprentice and making about $37,000 a year. And that was coming from a military paycheck of about 72. So I was like, well, let's not do that. Let's go drive truck. So I drove semi-truck for about 120 grand a year. And that was all going fine until my real dad died. And then my girlfriend of 4 years, I caught her cheating. And then I got into a truck accident and had my semi-truck blow up, all within about a year. So I was like, well, let's go do something I want to do for me, because there's nothing else that's really matters. So I decided I would go to China to visit. Yeah, I'll just spend 3 months in China looking around China. I've been playing a video game called Romance of Three Kingdoms. Now, if you're a very heavy strategy oriented kind of guy, you might know Romance of Three Kingdoms or girl. You will find that it's a very deep strategy game. It takes about a month to play. I really
Wow.
enjoyed it. Yeah, it's a very, very heavy strategy game. Like I like to make my brain hurt. And that's
I used to play Civilization, so I feel you.
nice. Nice. It is kind of like Civilization, but it's got a couple more graduations in it. But it's all about the Turban War back in ancient China. And I'd fell in love with this game, and I went and got the books translated in English. Like the two books are literally this thick.
Wow.
They're like 3 or 4. Well, I don't know what you call it. Probably 10 to 12 centimeters
Holy cow.
thick each. And there's 2 of them. It's a very, very heavy book. And it's one of the 4 most common books taught in China in their literary background, which I thought was really kind of cool. I found that out when I went there. And I didn't know anything about it when I went there. But I went there and I wanted to travel China. That's all I wanted to do was travel and learn. And I did. I hit about 50 cities in about 3 months. I had a blast. I had a great time.
Wow.
And then I had someone say, well, actually, I had probably 100 people say, you should come and, teach English here. And I'm like, okay, you're talking to someone who's a C in English. I am A in math or science, but don't talk to me about C's in English. I will pass. But I was desired for my English because I'm a native speaker there.
Sure.
So I had a lot of fun there, and I was like, well, I'm not really that interested. And then I put in an application because a friend of mine convinced me to, and I ignored it for a week. Didn't even think about it. Went and did some stuff with him and traveled and then had fun. And he says, oh, by the way, did you check that site out? I'm like, no, I didn't remember it. I didn't care. And then I checked it out. I had 40 applications and 3 signed contracts sitting in the email. And these are not average contracts either. When I get out of the military and I go looking for a job, it takes me 6 months. In China, I go looking for a job, and a day after I look for a job, I get a job on.
Wow.
And I was making $5,000 a month, getting my rent paid, getting my utilities paid, and getting 1 meal a day paid. So it's almost all profit, like 100% was profit. So what do you do when you make $5,000 a month and you have no expenses? Oh yeah, build a great big pile of money. And what do you do with this pile of money at the end of it? Well, I go and make a business. And that's kind of what I did. And the first time I did it, I had someone else help me make this business because I was absolutely unaware of how to make a business in China.
Sure.
And I spent probably 100,000 yuan, which is like 20 grand, trying to make this business. Bad idea. If you want to learn how to make a business in China, come talk to me. You can do it for like 5,000 yuan. It's very cheap to make a business in China. And a lot of businesses in China, a lot of provinces in China actually will pay for your office space and everything when you make your business in their province because they want the income in their province. So that's something to think about when you go to make a business in China. There's a whole lot more to business in China than you would expect. But I had such a good time there too. But it was very learning. There's a lot of learning that I did with regards to how to run your business in China and how to write a contract. I got very good at running contracts.
Yeah.
Because you need to make sure that every T is crossed and every I is dotted in China. They're great people, but if they can find a hole to not do something, they will find a hole to not do it. And that's okay. That's just their culture. Their culture is to make sure they get the most out of it. And that's cool. But I think that when I first arrived in China, as I said, everything had gone wrong in my life all at once. And I decided this was all for me. I was like, I stepped off the plane and I went, you know what? good or bad or ugly, this whole problem, this whole situation is me. If I make it or I don't make it, it's all based on me and my decisions. So I can't blame anybody else. I only can take the responsibility myself. And I really came into China with a completely different mindset than I pretty much had my entire life. And it was really good to have that. And I showed up in China, and I have a really good story about when I first came into China with a family in China. I don't know if anybody here knows what Spring Festival is in China, but you can relate it very similarly to Christmas here in Canada. It's pretty much their Christmas, and it lasts for almost a month.
Wow.
In China. You will have pre-spring cleanup, and then you have a big event, and then you have a week-long time off of work. So everybody goes home, and you all celebrate as a family. So it's very, very, very family-oriented. And I love that about Chinese people. They're extremely family-oriented. So I had someone that I was talking to as a pen pal, and they invited me to come to this little tiny town called Kuzong. Now, I went looking for this town called Kuzong, and on the map, I couldn't find it. It took me a while to find it. And then I was told it's near Hanya, and then it's outside of Hanya about an hour. So I went to this town, which is Changsha. I ended up opening my business in Changsha later. And then outside of Changsha, there's a smaller town called Hanya, which is about an hour out of town. And then when you get to Hanya and you ask around for Kuzong, nobody knows it. And then there's this one guy who goes, I know where you want to go. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I should trust you, but okay, we'll try this. And he says, here, come with me and I'll give you a ride to the bus stop. A bus stop? I said, you can't just drive me. He says, no, I'm not going to drive you all the way to Kuzong. I'm like, why not? He says, it would be too much money in the taxi. The bus will only cost you 20 yuan, but if I drive you in the taxi, it costs you like 200 yuan. I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever. So he drives me over to this bus stop, drops me off at the bus stop and goes, here you go. And I give him the money and I'm waiting at the bus stop. And then they're talking to me in Chinese, and at this time, I know zero Chinese. I don't know ni hao. I don't know ni hao is hello. I don't know goodbye. I don't know thank you. I don't know anything. I just have money and a translator, Pleco and Google Translator, godsends. Anyway, so I'm sitting at this bus stop, and these people are talking to me in Chinese and then translating with Google. And then we get to the point where, yeah, Kuzong is this bus. I'm like, okay. And the bus comes, and then I come up to the bus and I'm like, Kuzong. And they're like, yeah, we'll go to Kuzong. Okay. So I get on the bus, I pay them I think it was like 18 yuan. It wasn't very much. And that's yuan are like 5 to 1, by the way.
Okay.
5 yuan equal $1. So 18 yuan is like $4. It's pretty small. So I go out to this little town called Kuzong, and it's a great little town, and it's about 100,000 people. Now for us, that's a reasonable sized town. But in China, you can walk from one side of Kuzong to the other in about 45 minutes because they always build up. They don't usually build out. So 100,000 is a very small town, and they call it a village, actually.
Wow.
When you talk to them. Yeah, they call it a village. They don't see it as a town. It's so small. And I'm walking down this street of this town looking for this hotel. I'm going down the street, and then I start hearing kind of mumblings and rumblings behind me, and I look over my shoulder, and there's like 100 people. Like this group of 100 people following me, and I'm like, this is weird. And I keep walking, and I look over me. They kind of like follow me and stop. When I stop and look over, they stop. This is weird. It's very uncomfortable, right? You're new in town, and there's 100 people following. It was really unusual. So I keep walking, and then there were 4 or 5 people come up out of the group, and like a group of teenagers, and they're coming up to me, and I'm like, what's going on? And they come up and they're like, This girl comes to me and speaks in horribly broken English and says, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Gonna find a hotel." And she's like, "No hotel." I'm like, "What do you mean no hotel? This is a town of 100,000 people. No hotel." She's like, "No hotel." I'm like, "There's got to be a hotel." She's like, "No, no, 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 no hotel." How can there be no hotel? I don't get this. Like, what's going on? And we translate with Google for about 20 minutes, and I find out that there is one hotel in the town because people don't visit this little tiny town, right? It's too small. Nobody comes. So, in this one hotel, their family went home for Spring Festival. So it's closed. So there's no hotel. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. Okay, what do I do now? I said, okay, what about the bus? Can I take the bus back? No bus. What do you mean no bus? I'll take the bus back to because I ain't gonna sleep on the street. What's going on? Right? He's like, no bus. Oh no. And I talked to her for a bit, and she says, well, the last bus that you just caught was the last bus before Spring Festival. Now there's not going to be any buses until after Spring Festival, which is 10 days from now. Oh, so there's no way to leave and there's nowhere to stay. And I'm in this town of Kuzon of 100,000 people with this crowd of 100 people behind me. And I ask her, in the midst of all this, what's up with these people? Why do I have 100 people following me? And she says, nobody's ever seen a foreigner. Ever. What? They've never seen a foreigner in their town in their life.
Wow.
Like he says, you are the very first person that is outside of China that I've ever seen in my entire life. And she's 16 years old or 17 years old, something like that. And she says, all the people back there, they're older than me, and none of them have ever seen a foreigner in our town.
Wow.
So I'm like this celebrity because they've never seen a white guy. I'm like, oh, this is really unusual. Like I'd never had that feeling of people follow you around because they want to know you. That was just really very, very unnerving, right? And then she says, come with me. We're going to go to my place. I'm like, no. Thanks, but no. I appreciate this, but no. And she says, I want you to talk to my dad. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, we can talk to your dad. So she brings me over to her place and she walks in the door and her dad starts talking and she starts talking to her dad and they're talking in Chinese. So it's all Chinese to me, man.
Yeah.
It's all Chinese to me. I have no idea, but they're like, what? I'm like, okay. And then she says, my dad wants you to stay. I'm like, what? She says, come with me, follow my dad. I'm like, okay. And he goes downstairs and there's a spare room that's, it's the size of a hotel room. And he says, you can stay here until the end of Spring Festival when the buses start. And I'm like, how much do you want? He says, no, I won't take any money. Like I tried like 3 or 4 times to pay him money. I left money on the dresser. He would not take this money. Didn't matter what I did. He says, no money, just stay. And I'm like, he says, you're welcome in my house. And I'm like, wow, can you think of that? Can you imagine that in Canada?
No.
Let's turn this into a Canadian situation.
Yeah.
Joe Blow, who's an Asian, who can't speak English, shows up in your 10,000, because this is what you'd think about it, in Canada, like a 10,000 or less town, and the motel is closed for the Christmas holidays, right? There's only one motel. And he shows up with your daughter and her friends. and she says, hey, can he stay, Dad? Can you imagine this in Canada? Like, I'm thinking of this situation in Canada and going, I don't know how many dads would pull out their shotgun, but I'd say at least 50%. I can't even imagine that. What are you doing in my house? What are you doing in my door?
Yeah. Yeah. My
How
God.
many would say, no, come on downstairs and stay for the Christmas holidays?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a 10 days of Christmas holidays. Like that was unreal. And when you talk to them, and the more I lived in China, the more I found this, you talk to them, that is common. They would expect that. If a foreigner needed somewhere to stay, instantaneously 8 out of 10 of them would say, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That blew my mind. I'm like, I thought Canadians were a welcoming country. Like I really did. I'm a very proud Canadian. I am willing to die for my flag and my country. This is me as a military member. I really believe Canada is a great country. And I feel like, holy jumping, there's no way I would ever see that kind of compassion from Canadians.
Yeah.
Maybe once in a while, like they'll be the odd one, but I would say 8 out of 10 Chinese, the average Chinese person in China, in regular China, they would all say the same thing. Yeah, come and stay. Don't stay outside. Don't have a problem. Don't, try to find a bus home. Just come stay with us. I was like, that was so flooring.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it really is.
Flooring.
I agree with you completely, right? Like, I grew up in a small town just outside of Edmonton called Spruce Grove. And yeah, probably like, I don't know, when I grew up there, probably 10,000 or 15,000 people. Like, was not a gigantic town by any means. It's a lot bigger now, but it wasn't then. And I remember going out at night and there being no cars. Like, you could go out for a walk and there just be you and that's it, right? Different time, different world. But yeah, like when I think to like what you're saying with regards to just like somebody showing up at my doorstep, or like, I just, especially somebody who's a foreigner, doesn't speak English, it would be very hard because there would be a lot of distrust. I think we live in a very distrusting society. We really do. Like, we want to know people before we invite them into our lives, right? It's a completely different situation. You're right. I don't think I could see that happening, and especially not at Christmas, which seems kind of bad, but I think most Canadians wouldn't do it.
Yeah, and that blew me away at the difference between my opinion and what I was taught about the Chinese culture comparison to what I found when I went there.
Yeah.
It was really a black and white difference. And that changed like my entire opinion of everything I'd learned, everything we're taught. It makes you think, okay, if that is so wrong, what else are we being taught that isn't so right?
Mm.
And after talking for a while with the Chinese, I would say that what we hear about is usually has to do with their wonderful governing body. Just like here in Canada, we have a governing body that everybody loves, right? Everybody loves Trudeau, of course. Right.
Especially in Western Canada. He's our favorite.
Right. So, the same situation goes for their government there. It's not a matter of, and this is something you have to be really cautious with when you go out to China. You better not say that it was bad when you're in China, because they are watching. The difference is in China, they tell you, hey, buddy, we're watching you. In Canada, they go, we're watching you and we're not going to tell you.
Yeah, like I remember when we first met, one of the first questions I asked you was, dude, weren't you scared? Like, obviously in Canada, we're democratic, right? We like to think we're one of the freest countries on earth. And I'm not sure if that's always true, but we like to think so. And the idea is that communism is horrible. Communism is bad. Avoid communism like crazy. And so for me, the idea of like spending any time in a communist country would be terrifying, let alone an extremely long time.
Yeah. Let alone coming up to somebody's family and going, here, let me stay in your house for like a week and I don't even know you, Yeah. It's a completely black and white difference from what we're taught. And that's straight up. That's about as, point blank as I could say it. What we're taught about how bad everything is out there really isn't. Now, there are things that can be better. I'm not going to lie. And There are things that make you go, you know, when the doctor who discovers COVID leaves for work and work doesn't see him and he never comes home that day, makes you go, you know, things like that. But, you know, there are things, but they also are very straightforward and to the point. You know, they say if you talk about the government in a negative way, you will be reprimanded. You know, they're going to tell you straight out.
Yeah.
You know, we love our country of China, and if you think that we're bad, we're going to kick you out. Okay, you know. So if you follow the rules that they lay out, you don't usually get in trouble. Not that I've seen, anyways. And
I guess I just want to pause you there. What was it like learning these rules? Because these are not rules we have in Canada. You can speak however you feel. It's a freedom of speech, not a freedom of speech in China, clearly. What was it like learning these rules as an outsider? Like, you know, I mean, for them, they grew up in it. For you, it's like, holy crap. Like, I don't want to say something and get reprimanded. Talk to me about that. Like, what was it like trying to learn all this stuff?
it was, as you say, I had the same uncomfortable, and it was, I tell you, it was really uncomfortable when you look over your shoulder and there's 100 people following you. Okay. When you're not used to the environment or the culture, you're wondering, are they there for good, bad, ugly? What's going on? You know, am I going to have to use my military experience?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, literally, I'm not even kidding. You know, you're thinking, okay, how many people can I take out before I go down?
100's a lot. I don't know if I can do that.
I can't do that. I just gotta keep walking. Like, literally, that's what's going through.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
You got to remember that this time I was less than a week in China. Less than a week when this happened. I was like brand new, spanking off the plane, man. I had no idea what this. I'd never seen this before. It was a way.
Moment where you're like, "This is how it happens. This is how I die."
About it was a moment where I was going, I wonder how fast I can run. And I run faster scared than they can angry. I don't know. Literally.
Oh man. Oh man.
But when you stop and they stop, it makes you go, what's going on?
Sure.
It's really weird. It's very unusual.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was definitely, as you say, it's very an unnerving process. Always watching what you say and watching what you say, even online, it was made overly apparent that the number one thing that they use to chat is WeChat, Weixin. And WeChat is like I am, instant messenger here.
Yeah.
You know, everybody uses instant messenger or WhatsApp here to chat with. Now, what if you were told by the Canadian government that everything you put through instant messenger will be looked at?
Wow.
Not some of it. Absolutely everything you put through WeChat will be examined by the Canadian government.
Yeah, that's
You know, how much do you want to talk about the Canadian government first?
Sure. Yeah.
Like, really, how much do you want to talk about them? You're like, And then number two, if you say anything bad about the Canadian government, you could go to jail in China. So you really go, that's something I don't want to do too much. So you don't, right? And something like, and they did this test more than once with Canadians. They would post the wonderful picture of Tiananmen Square. And immediately it would be taken down, and immediately that account would be banned. And if that person was in China, they would find out where they were, and 6 SWAT would come and say hello to them.
wow. Wow.
And that's for sure what will happen. And they will take you to the police department, and you will have to write an apology to get let out, saying you don't support improper propaganda. So I read this all on WeChat and all on the internet as I was there at the beginning. So I was like, wow, okay. So they don't kind of check everything out. They check everything out.
Yeah.
So then when you see that and you know that, you learn very, very quickly that You got to be very careful what you put on their most common chat. But the only way to get to know anybody is WeChat. Like 100%. You don't, with WeChat, you don't meet people in China without a WeChat. It's back before the internet here in North America. When you met someone, you say, hey man, can I grab your phone number so we can connect? 100% of the time. That's the only way to make sure you connect again. In China, you meet two people and it's like, hey man, what's your WeChat? Like it's guaranteed. If you don't have a WeChat, you know that they don't want to talk to you.
Yeah. Okay.
It's one of those, oh, you don't want to give me your WeChat? It's not a matter of you don't have one. It's a matter of
You don't want to give it
you
to
don't like me.
Yeah. Well, in all fairness, that could pretty much be the same in Canada. Like, if you don't want to give your phone number, we know everyone's got a phone. So,
Yeah, that's why I related those two, right? Back in, you go with a phone. Hey man, what's your phone number? Actually, I'm changing phone numbers or whatever, right? Some stupid excuse, right? It's not okay. You don't have a phone, right? It's like you don't want to talk to me. Okay, no problem. I get it.
yeah.
Right. And the same thing, exactly the same thing with WeChat.
Yeah.
If you go there and say, hey man, can I have your WeChat? They go, actually, I don't have a WeChat. You go, okay, thanks. Bye.
Yeah. CR, I want to spend some time here though, because you didn't just go to China on a trip. Like you eventually stayed. You didn't just stay. You opened a business. Like you did it. Like you chose to be there. Talk to me about that. Even despite all of this, all these challenges, communist system, you made a choice that was where you wanted to lay down some roots. Can we talk about that?
Well, again, it was, I got dragged into way too much money for way too little work and movie star style life. And I'm really not even kidding. And you walk around and you go to these places and you have 100 people follow you on, hey, can I have your WeChat? Can I have your WeChat? It's literally, I feel like you're a movie star. You're there. And I loved it. I never had a problem with getting out and having friends and going to an event. It was great. Just, mind you, I didn't always take the time because business comes first. But for me, I did that and I started working in China and I had a good time. I made great connections. I had a lot of fun with it. I found it very easy work. Like, can you imagine doing 20 to 25 hours a week for $5,000 a month?
Yeah, that's crazy.
In Canada?
No.
Can you imagine that? Like, what job do you have for that? Is there any job in Canada that you can do that? Let me know what it is and I'll see if I can go and apply for it. Right? You know what I mean? It just doesn't happen here. So I was just living the life, really. So I made good money and I was helping people, teaching them English. And I helped all sorts of people from students to university kids to adults. I even ended up doing a shoe sales company and went into the company and taught like 25 executives because they were starting to go overseas and they needed to speak English to do emails and stuff like that and go overseas. So, I never had a problem with teaching basic communication. To me, that's communication English is not the same as what you learn in school, which is all grammar and nobody loves. Communication English is just getting, hi, how you doing? What's your name? What do you need? Oh, I need 5 pairs of shoes. Okay. These kind of things are what we're looking at. You're not looking at, I before E except after C or in neighbor or way. I don't really care. Anyways, I probably even got that wrong. Oh,
no, that sounded good to me.
I don't even know. That's my point, right? I'm talking about English, just talking English.
Yeah.
And that's what I taught. I taught how to speak English. And here's a very classic Chinese situation. And you can go to China today and have this happen. You get off the plane and you say, how you doing? And the first person that talks to you says, I'm fine, thank you. And you? Okay, that's a little bit formal, but all right, I'm fine, thank you. And you? No problem. And then you go to the next person. Hey, how you doing? I'm fine, thank you. And you? And then you go to like the taxi cab driver. You get in the taxi cab. Hi, how you doing? I'm fine, thank you. And you? Wait a second, what? And then you go to the hotel clerk. Hey, how you doing? I'm fine, thank you. And you? And every person you talk to says, I'm fine, thank you. And you?
You start to feel like you're in Groundhog Day.
It's like everybody's a robot. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So one of the very first things I teach in university or I teach to any executive is do not say I'm fine, thank you. And you. It's just not what you would say in English.
Yeah.
You say, I'm good, I'm great, I'm wonderful, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm angry, I'm like, I don't care, but something real.
Yeah.
You know, you don't say I'm fine, thank you. I feel like a robot. Like, oh my gosh, man, it sounds so weird.
I'm sure it's the exact same. Like, I'm sure that for people learning Mandarin or any other country or any other language, I should say, you know, I mean, there's always going to be those things that we're saying completely wrong because we don't understand the intricacy of the communication, right? I feel like that happens probably everywhere.
When I learned enough Chinese, I would say, this is what it sounds like in Chinese. And people go, you'd never say that in Chinese. And I said, no, you wouldn't.
That's right.
You'd never say that in Chinese. But this is the same thing as what you're saying in English.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, that's so weird. And I'm like, yeah, congratulations.
I want to take us into Wuhan. You have a very interesting perspective because you were actually there. Dude, I haven't talked to anybody. Obviously, COVID was a massive impact around the world, Canada, United States, worldwide, but especially in China. And you were there at the time. Not only were you there, you were a crisis volunteer. Can we talk about your experience during the COVID crisis?
Well, as I said, I made a lot of money. And after 2 years of making a lot of money, I went and opened a business. Why not? You know, if you got a lot of money and you know how the business works, you can make even more money if all the money comes to you and not to somebody else.
Yeah.
I knew how much money I was making. And I also know that I was making less than half of what they were making. I was like, dang, you know how much money I should be making? So I got into the business of tutoring. And then I went and made a good chunk of money off of that. And in a year, I had enough money to put into a second business, which was a nightclub. I said, when I thought about it, I went, okay, let's take everything to do with English tutoring. It's in the education business. It's to do with students. It's in a classroom. What is as far away from that as humanly possible so that if something disrupts that, it won't disrupt my new business? Because I don't like all my eggs in one basket. You know, if one goes down, I can use the other. If the other one goes down, I can use, and I kind of feed each other in times of trouble. That's how business runs. So I bought into a nightclub at 100 grand Canadian. It's about 500 UN. But anyways, so I had a nightclub and I had a English tutoring club or English tutoring school. What could ever happen to close them both down at the same time? Nothing. Nothing in the world could ever close both these businesses down at the same time. Nothing, right? Nothing. Until.
Yeah.
Okay. And inside of 1 week, I lost all my business all at the same time.
Wow.
I'm like, that's really annoying. Because I have one business that is school kids getting together. Oh, we can't have school kids getting together in COVID. So closed they were the first things to close down in all of China. Every classroom, every school, every tutoring, because they actually really cared about their kids. So everything got closed down. And then afterwards they went, actually, thinking about people that are getting together, we should probably close down all the bars and clubs. And about 2 days later, they all closed down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, life's, anyways. So both my business at the same time closed down. And I'm like, okay, well, what am I going to do now? I can't get home because the tickets are $50,000 each, not yuan, $50,000 each to get home. And I wrote, the country, Canada, who was supposed to get me a ride home, and that didn't work. And then I wrote to Canada saying, hey, you want to give me some funding so that I can get home? No, that didn't work. So I was left in Changsha. Now, Changsha is about 2 hours outside of Wuhan. So it was very close to the epicenter.
Yeah.
So it closed down literally days after the news of Wuhan hit. So I'm sitting there. I no longer have a job. I have no income. I have nothing to do. And I have an expiring visa in China. None of this is good. None of this is good. It's all bad, all the way along. And I'm like, this is a problem. So I go to the police because that's one thing I've really found out. If you go to the police and tell them your problem, they will do everything they can to help you. Everything. They will go upside down to help you. So I came to them and I said, my visa is going to expire soon and I can't get a flight home. What can I do about it? And they said, well, go to the visa place. And I went, okay. And then I come back about an hour later, the visa place is closed and it will be closed until further notice. Oh, sit down there. And then they went and did a whole bunch of research for me, like literally probably an hour and a half worth of phone calls and everything. And they came to me and said, here, take this piece of paper. It's a police stamped signed piece of paper. Don't worry about your visa. It's good until the visa place is open. Oh, okay. So there's my number one problem. I don't have an issue with my visa. Now what do I do? I have no income, no way to do anything. I have lots of money and, a house, but I am not one to sit around and do nothing. I go crazy when I don't do something. So I went, you know what? They are desperate for volunteers. You see it every day on the thing, the nurses falling asleep at their post, and it was horrible, right? They were working them 24/7 for like 6 days a week. It was crazy. So I went, well, they obviously need help and they're humans, right? We are all human when it comes down to it. You get past everything else, you take off everything else. We're the same biologically set of people, right? So I'm going to go to Wuhan and volunteer. And that's what I did. I went to Wuhan and I went to the city council and the mayor, and I applied to be a volunteer. And I was a volunteer right in Wuhan during the Wuhan crisis.
Wow.
And I got there about the 4th of January, 2020. And I was there. And then January 21st, they locked down Wuhan to the point where I had a car. I could not find any road whatsoever. And I looked for about 3 days. I could not find any road out of Wuhan. Every road was either closed off by police, closed off by barriers, closed off by dump trucks, closed off by semi-trucks, closed off by anything that they could find to block off a road they used.
Wow.
You could not come in or out of Wuhan at all. If you walked out, you could, but Wuhan's a long ways from the next town. It's like 3.5 hours from Changsha. It's a long ways. So I was like, okay, well, I'm stuck here. I'm volunteering. And I just kept volunteering. And I met a guy who was a photographer, which is where this photography business came from.
Yeah.
And we hung out together and we volunteered together and we had a great time and we helped a lot of people. I probably handed out about 2,000 glasses, and then I handed out masks and I handed out water, and I would make deliveries of food and medicine to places. And it was great. I really fit right in. And then as I was doing this, someone who knew that I had left Changsha and went to Wuhan, he phoned me up. He says, hey, man, are you still in Wuhan? And I'm like, yeah, man. He's like, did you know CTV is looking for somebody in Wuhan? Would you be up for that? I'm like, oh, okay, I guess. Whatever. Like, I hadn't thought about it. It wasn't on my list of what do I need when I go to Wuhan?
Yeah.
I'm go in for CTV, I'm like, sure, man, you can send me an email. Tell them to send me an email. Here's my email address. So they send me an email and say, hey, this is what we're planning on doing. Would you be interested? And I'm like, Well, I did do photography for 9/11 and I got fourth place, like honorary mention. So, in a national contest, I I could do it. I've enjoyed photography as kind of like a hobby pretty much all my life. Um, sure, I could do this. What do you want me to do? And they told me all about how to do the documentary, all about Wuhan. And that's what I did. I did an entire recording about what I was doing and what was happening in Wuhan from a firsthand point of view. And
Wow.
you can look it up today and look up Inside Wuhan W5 on YouTube or CTV News or Violin Run Entertainment, which is one of the producers. And it's my documentary. And it aired in Canada, I don't know, sometime in March or April, something like that. And the day it aired, it had 1.2 million viewers. I
Wow.
was like, what?
That is unreal.
Crazy. Like that blew my mind.
Was there ever a moment where you were afraid? Because I imagine that might be something that the government might not want leaving the country.
If you watch the video, you will see me walking up with my camera down here because you have to watch, right? There's ways to do things and ways not to do things. And I'm walking with my camera just here. It wasn't in my hand and I wasn't taking pictures, or it didn't look like I was taking pictures, but it was running.
Yeah.
And I was walking up the ramp to the closed down Wuhan train station when two police SWAT vans start driving towards me. And you can hear me, if you listen in the video, go,
Oh shit.
as I tense right up. That's I'm going, one of those,
Wow.
yeah, moments. I was very, very concerned at that point, because if they didn't like it, they take your camera, take your car, take your, throw you in jail. They have no limits.
There's no limits. Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no limit in what they can do in China. Like it's what it is. That's their rules, right?
Yeah.
And they drove past me, and you hear me. And I was like,
It's
was
just,
there
do you
ever a
ever,
time
like,
when I felt really tense? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, there were a
Yeah.
couple.
there's probably no other Canadians. Like, and that's like, we have a big country. There are probably no other Canadians with this experience, CR. Like, you are the only one. Like, that is pretty bonkers. Do you ever think about that?
No. I don't usually see it in that method. I just see it as it was an opportunity, and opportunities don't knock twice.
Yeah.
Generally.
Yeah.
Opportunities knock once, and you either make the decision to take it or you make the decision to walk away.
I love that.
I'm always one of those, if an opportunity provides itself, really, you should take it.
Yeah, I agree.
And sometimes risk is rewarded. I think actually more often than not, risk is rewarded.
Yes.
If you put the effort in and the time in, risk is often rewarded. So that was one of two times when I was very, very nervous. The second time, I walked behind one of the hospitals, and this never showed up on the video because I told them to take it out because I was too nervous. I walk around the back of the hospital, and there is a portable crematorium that they're just loading bodies in one after another.
Oh my gosh.
Right. One after another. And it goes to the crematorium and into the big dumpster in the back and then taken out. And it's not one or two bodies, like their thing was rolling constantly. And I saw it and I recorded it, and then I left and I sent it to them, and CTV News went, and I went, don't put it on.
Yeah, I don't want to die.
I never feel like being one of those people, so don't put it on. But I thought you might want to know.
Wow. Okay, hold on. You were ground zero. There were a lot of people who said that the deaths were BS, but what you're saying right now is absolutely not. There were a lot of people on the ground dying.
There were a lot of people. Like, the numbers that they gave you were BS. I agree, but not because they were too much. probably because too little.
Wow. Wow. That is unreal.
Being on ground zero and seeing that, that was the other time that I went, and then I thought about it and went, no.
Seeing the amount of people dying all around you, were you not afraid for yourself? Like, were you not incredibly afraid about catching COVID?
Well, if you look into it, it is very similar to pneumonia. It is a lower lung virus that, builds up fluid in your lungs, just like pneumonia. Now, when I was a kid, I was born a month early. So I had underdeveloped lungs. So I was very accessible to, like, my body it had lots of ability to take on pneumonia. So 5 times when I was younger, I got pneumonia by the time I was 5 years old.
Wow.
I had pneumonia 5 times and I lived through it. So I went, well, after doing all the research on this and knowing that it's almost the same as pneumonia and knowing that I could live through pneumonia.
Yeah. It was a risk you were willing to take.
I was like, well, it's pneumonia. It's pneumonia again. I know how horrible that is, but I have lived through pneumonia. Okay, I can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I never really was scared of COVID, like the fear that seemed to spread through the whole world. And that was something also I said in the video, greater than the COVID virus is the virus of fear.
Yeah.
It can do way more damage. They were killing pets because they thought the pets could spread pneumonia. Well, no, or spread COVID. And it wasn't the case. But, the virus of fear is way more dangerous than the virus of COVID ever was.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too. So, yeah, I think that you need to be educated. You need to learn what it does. You need to learn how it's going to affect you. Now, if you have a bad immune system and you have problems with breathing, then you better protect yourself in any way you can.
Yeah.
But if you're a strong person and you don't have problems with breathing and, you can handle a horrible chest cold, then probably you could handle COVID.
Yeah.
It's not going to make you feel good, but you could probably handle COVID. So this over fear mongering, I think, was half the problem. And no, there isn't something, it's not something you should ignore. And it's definitely something you should respect. But it also isn't something that is like the Black Plague. And there is no, it's going to wipe up, half the world. The Black Plague literally killed 1/3 of the world's population when it happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there's a limit, Yes, you have to respect it. No, you don't have to be deathly afraid of it.
Yeah. The sickest I've ever been, I caught H1N1 when that was going around, swine flu, back in like 2008, 2009, I want to say. And yeah, I literally couldn't even get out of bed for 2 weeks. Like we caught COVID and COVID was minor compared to that. But in all fairness, it affects different people differently.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I say you got to respect it, right?
Yeah.
You got to make sure that you know what your limitations are and what your issues are, right? If you have problems with your chest, you have problems with breathing, you have problems with your lungs or your heart, then, really respect COVID. Stay out of the way of people and, wear a mask, that kind of thing. But, I don't think everybody has that problem. So, take it with a grain of salt, or maybe a pound or something.
Maybe a pound. Then you can salt your windows and doors while you're at it. My gosh. Dude, and then you came home. So you came home.
Yeah. Well, that was not by choice,
Yeah.
Of course. China does have their limitations. I lived through that. I was the very first, and I actually have the certificate, the very first foreign person to receive a certificate of clean health after COVID. I have 001 on my clean health bill from China.
Wow.
It's very, very cool. Well, I feel very proud for that little thing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. But after I did all the volunteering, you have to go through 2 weeks of decon, right? Because you want to make sure that you don't ever get COVID and you don't spread it.
That's right.
And that's logical because you're working right next to people every single day. We get 2 tests every day to verify that you don't have it so that you could keep working.
Yeah.
Right. So it's very, they're very stringent on that, which is great. In the entire time to this moment, I still haven't got COVID.
Amazing.
So I've never, ever received COVID. I never, ever got COVID.
That's awesome.
But I probably have about 500 tests. I've been tested like 500 times, more times than almost anybody else, I think, in North America. But I got a clean bill of health and I left. And then I went to Shanghai, and with my friend from Wuhan, we opened a modeling and photography company, which is still valid today. He manages out in China. And we opened it with part of the money from CTV. Thank you very much.
Amazing. Amazing.
So anyways, I moved over to my company in Shanghai, and I started living in Shanghai and running my company in Shanghai. And then Omicron hit just when my visa was ready for renewal. And the Chinese government went, well, you're a foreigner. Omicron's hitting. We're closing down chunks of Shanghai and your visa is up for renewal. Go home and then come back in a couple of years. We're done with this Wuhan and this COVID problem, and we just don't want to deal with people. So goodbye. So they ended up sending me home. Now, I had left everything in China because I still to this day think that I eventually will return. But so I got to Canada, Vancouver, with a backpack and a duffel bag, literally. And I went, okay, what do I do now? Just start again.
Yeah.
Got to start again.
Did you have any savings left over from that time in China?
No, because I spent a lot of it actually. Well, first of all, we had just put a lot of investment. I put 500,000 yuan into the nightclub, and literally we had opened a month, maybe 2 months beforehand. So we were still in the red, deep in the red, because we're brand new. Right? We put literally like $3 or $4 million into redoing and buying it and everything, and then we had to close. Just nothing left after that.
Yeah.
And then I tried to spend a bunch of money to stay in China because I preferred to stay in China. That didn't work either. So I came back and I was pretty short on cash actually when I came back. So I'm like, well, you know what I can do? I can drive truck. I can drive truck. I still got a class 1 license. I'll go drive truck and I'll make 120 grand a year, which I did right off the bat. You know what? Don't stop. Life will never be fair. I think that's a big thing that I talk to a lot of people about is, life, people come to you and say, life isn't fair. And I'm like, no, life is not fair. Congratulations. You've now learned.
You have learned the life lesson. My boys, they'll get on it. They'll be like, oh, that wasn't fair. Or they'll be fighting with each other. And you're not being fair. And I just look at them and I said, boys, nothing in life is fair.
Nothing in life
After you learn that, the better you were going to do.
So you just pick up where you are. You get this hand in poker. You either play it or you fold it. That's it. That's it. That's all you do. You have 2 choices.
Yeah.
Play it or fold it.
Yeah.
So I was there. That was my situation. I needed money. That's what I did. Was it my preferred? No, definitely not. 100% not. I had been in a major accident before. I had lost a career with it before, lost a lot of money with it before. So, it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I really had no passion. You got to remember, I'm the guy who will die for my country and my values. I'm sorry, there's just no passion for me in driving truck.
Yeah.
There's just no passion, right?
Sure.
So I was driving truck and my friend says, you hate this job. And I'm like, but it makes me 120 grand a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I need the money right now. And he said, you should find your passion and make a job. And that hit me because I'm like, okay, you go out into the world and there are jobs and you try to fit into a job because that's the way the world is. I had never looked at it the opposite way, where you can go make your own job. How do you make a job? So I thought on that for probably a good month. And I came up with, well, the first thing, let's go with step by step. What are my passions? Well, I love music. I can play music when I'm mad, sad, happy, glad, whatever.
Yep.
I always love music. Whenever I'm working on a music stage or around music, I am probably one of the happiest people on the planet. I love it. Okay. I have a passion for music. Computers. I have been playing with and fixing computers literally since my grade 4 class when I fixed my class's computer. I'm a Microsoft certified professional, A+ certified technician. I am an avionics systems technician. I've been working on computers on planes and trains, you name it, wherever. I've always worked on computers. I love computers. Okay, so that's my second passion, computers. And this is very evident in the military, and I think this goes with a lot of military members. We all are out to support or protect the little guy. That's what we're there for, right? If someone goes to, to attack someone that's smaller than them or weaker than them, we are there to protect the country, our values, our beliefs. So, supporting the little guy has always been one of my passions. As much as everybody, thinks that, Edmonton Oilers should have won, I'm sorry, I was cheering for the underdogs. You know what I mean? It's Vancouver Canucks were against Edmonton Oilers. Who was I cheering for? My team, Vancouver Canucks. Have they ever won a Stanley Cup? Never. But I'm still cheering for them. They are the underdogs. And they won, and that was great. But I'm always cheering for the underdog.
CR, you're in Calgary.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Have you looked out the window?
I'm a Canucks fan, and I will cheer for the underdogs because I always cheer for the underdogs. It's one of my passions. So those are my 3 passions: helping small people, music, and computers. How can I combine those 3 into a single job? And that's where your beat comes from.
Amazing.
Your beat comes from that. From my passion for people, my passion for music, my passion for computers, helping artists get out there and really make enough money to do simple things like pay their rents.
Yeah.
What an idea. Spotify goes out there and gets, I saw an ad the other day. Come with us and we will get you 1 million streams on Spotify. I said, did you know what 1 million streams does for you? And I wrote a post on my Instagram about this ad. We will get you 1 million streams. Do you know how much Spotify pays for 1 stream? Does anybody? Most people don't. It's 0.0032 cents. That means it's a third of a penny.
Wow.
For 1 stream.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you get 1 million streams, that's a whole $3,200. Woo! $3,200.
Yeah.
Oh, but it can't be that bad, right? 1 million streams can't be that bad. Well, let's look at it from a point of view of time. So if you were to get 1 million streams, an average pop song, not classical music, not rock, an average pop song, which are the most popular songs. That's why they're called popular songs. Anyways, they're 2.5 minutes long. So if I were to get 1 million streams, that's 2.5 million minutes.
Yeah.
Listening. And when you calculate that out, that's 4.76 years of time that my fans had to spend to give me $3,200. Is it worth it to be on Spotify?
Wow.
For us, we think that Spotify is a very niche product that is a marketing cost for someone who has over 100,000 viewers, over 100,000 fans, and gets 100,000 streams every month, and you use it to expand your reach. It is an advertising cost. It is not an income stream.
I agree.
And if you see it as
same
that,
for podcasts.
then it's perfect.
Yeah.
Right? If you are in that niche, you are perfect for Spotify. If you have 1,000 viewers and you want to try to get on Spotify, you are wasting your time. Really, you are wasting your time. You will spend 85% of your time trying to get onto Spotify, get $0 or maybe like $100 a month, but you will be spending 85% of your time. Do not waste so much of your time. You know, there's that 80-20 rule. Spend 80% of your time on 20% makes the most money.
That's right.
No, not 80% of the time on the stuff that makes 0% of your money. It's really not Spotify. Our goal is to do the opposite. Now, you can look this up. There's a cool book called 1,000 True Fans. And it's not really a book. It's like a 5-page essay. It's called 1,000 True Fans. I love it. It's a really good idea. Now, a true fan, according to this, is a fan that will spend $100 a year on you. And you think about that, that's not really that much. You calculate it out, I think it's $8.84 a month. Like 2 coffees, a McDonald's burger a month. Now, if you can get 1,000 people to buy a McDonald's burger a month for you, you are looking at $100 a month from each one of them. Times 1,000 people, you're making $100,000 a year. And you say that to artists and their eyes just kind of like go, what? I can make enough money to make $100,000 a year off 1,000 fans? I'm like, yeah, you don't need 100,000 people. You need 1,000 people that really believe in you. And nowadays, with a worldwide distribution network, which is available, you have 8 million people or 8 billion people to get 1,000 fans? Do you think you can't find 1,000 people to like your music and 8 billion people? You don't need the top end people. You just need 1,000 people to pay $8.84. And our goal is, with that, you make $100,000 a month or $100,000 a year. And for most people, $100,000 a year pays your rent.
Especially artists.
Pays most of your bills, pays all of these things that you need, right? It may not give you like the glory lifestyle of, the $4 million mansion, but work on it, build on it, and maybe over time it will. But the fact that you can pay your rent might be a good thing.
Totally.
Especially if it's 100% off your music. That's our number one thing.
So how does it work, CR? How do we do this for them?
Well, one of the things that we do mostly is we look at the numbers out in the world today. If you look at every major artist, from, a small artist that's local to a large artist that's actually making it, 85% of your income comes from live venues, live events. So what should you be spending 85% of your time doing?
Live venues.
We almost all got that, didn't we? So what do? We build our first step. The very first thing that we're releasing is something called Jam Jive. And Jam Jive is a way for venues to put up events and artists to put up their profile, and they both can see each other's and say, hey, I like that event. I would like to apply for that event. And hey, I like that artist. I would like that artist for this event.
It's a dating app. It's a dating app for artists.
So yes, it's very similar to that for our artists, but it allows them. One of the things that we do with our artists is, as they fill out their form, we ask them for things that a venue will need, but not every artist knows, especially newer artists. Like, hey, what's your one page or your EPK? What's that? That's a weird name for anything. Well, that's essentially your marketing sheet all about you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a new artist, you don't know what that is. But if you don't have one of those, the venue will never look at you. Right? Then what about your stage plot? Do you have your stage plot? What's that? I don't know what that is. If you don't have a stage plot, your venue won't look at you. Right? These are things that you need to make that application. And we build that right into our initial form when you sign up. Hey, here, sign up. It'll ask you for all these things. It says, hey, what's your demo reel? Oh, I don't have a demo reel. Well, you can't be on Jam Jive without it, because we're going to send that demo reel to your venue because it is a requirement. If you don't have a demo reel, the venue won't look at you.
Yeah.
Venues do this every single day. Any venue that's got any kind of salt in their name, they've done this before 1,000 times. The last thing they need is some scrub guy who comes in and doesn't know anything about the industry going, hey man, I'm like the coolest rock star on the planet, and you gotta let me play. Okay, do you have a one page? Oh, what? What's the one page? What do you mean? All right, man. Thanks. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
So in a lot of ways, really what you're doing is you become the marketing team for these artists. You really take that challenge off their plate.
Yeah, well, it's not just marketing. We do a whole lot of things, but we help them do everything. If you can think of a startup business accelerator, everything that a startup business accelerator does, from mentorship, training, connections, funding, grants, sponsorship, all of that, business management, post management, advertising,
Wow.
all of that. Like, it's not one or two pieces. It's when the whole app is finished, we do the whole thing. The Jam Jive is what we call a single feature MVP. It is our one feature of
A much
the
broader
whole
scope.
platform
Yeah.
that we want to get out so that we know that it makes 85% of the artist's income. So it's a good way to get artists making money. And B, it will be useful for artists, right? Let's get something out there that's useful for artists. So this is why we chose it as our first MVP or single feature MVP. But we have a much, much bigger scope in regards to that. So just think of us as the startup accelerator for musical artists. That's it. That's what we are.
Amazing. Amazing. CR, that takes us to the end of our show today. Dude, did I really appreciate this conversation? Thank you for sharing your journey. What an exciting and wild journey. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your insights with the BDP. But, before we wrap it up, you're a serial entrepreneur. You're not only a serial entrepreneur, you're like literally a worldwide serial entrepreneur, which is really cool. Do you have a piece of advice for some of these people who maybe are on the fence? They're a little afraid to go out and do their own thing. You've done it multiple times. You've reinvented yourself multiple times. What piece of advice might you give to people who are looking to make that jump to entrepreneurship?
Keep going. The biggest thing you'll find when you get into entrepreneurship is you'll start with a whole lot of energy, piles of energy. There'll be days, just like everything else, where you have no energy. You just want to sleep. Keep going. Consistency is so key. Every day, put your 5, 10, whatever hours you want to put in, but put time in every day towards your company. Do it every day, and you will see a difference. If you do 100 hours of something, you're an okay person. If you do 1,000 hours of something, you're pretty good. It's 10,000 hours of anything. You are in the top 5% of people doing that in the world. Put the time in and do it consistently.
Amazing. Put the time in. I love it. CR, before we close up today, I just wanted to point people your way. If we have venue owners listening, if we have artists listening, talk to me. Who are your ideal clients?
Our ideal clients, when it comes to venue side, is someone who's actually been in the business before. They know what it is that they want, and they know what it is they need from an artist. Because then we don't have to teach them. We will teach you if you need to, but we're here for artists, not for venues. Sorry. But if you need artists on a regular basis and you want to, change it up and get especially some local artists to you, we are number one. That's our focus, getting local artists out in front of fans. And, if you want to throw 10 artists together for a night so that you can make sure that each artist that has 100 can fill your venue, we can do that. Right? Because that's one of the biggest problems for venues is making sure that, they have an income for bringing in a brand new artist. And one artist will have 100 people and then maybe 10 people will show up. So it doesn't really work well. So that's just why a lot of venues kind of steer away from newer artists. But if I pull 10 artists or 15 artists together and we do a night of, 2 or 5 minute sets of each artist brings 10. You have 100, 15 people times 10, it's 150 people. You got a reasonably good gig there. And then you have your regular other people as well that'll show up, So, we can work things out. And even if you have venues that are not the average, things that we're talking about are old age homes or a restaurant or, something like that, a coffee house. And you want someone to come and play background music in your hotel lobby. we can arrange that. That's for our venues. For artists, you have problems with getting out there. You have problems with marketing. You have problems. You don't really know what to do with your social media. You don't know how to read your SEOs in your social media. You don't know how to actually expand your brand. You don't know anything about or don't want to know anything about business. You're here for music. This is who we want to deal with, because we will come and we will help you go through all those steps to get from step A to the spotlight. And that's what we're here for.
Amazing. Amazing. Guys, this has been episode 216 of the Business Development Podcast. We have been graced by CR Holmes, CEO and founder of Your Beat. If you are an artist in Alberta looking for some support, they got your back. Until next time, this has been the Business Development Podcast, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Hey rock stars, today I'm thrilled to introduce you to Fabled Solutions, an incredible new sponsor revolutionizing custom software development in Canada. Whether you're a business owner with a game-changing idea or a company ready to streamline operations, Fabled Solutions is your go-to partner for creating tailored web and mobile apps. With over a decade of experience, they don't just build apps, they craft solutions that grow with your business. Their secret? A strategic approach that blends deep industry expertise with a commitment to quality. From day one, Fabled Solutions works closely with you to prioritize what matters and deliver a minimum viable product that's functional, impactful, and built to scale. They balance speed with precision, crafting flexible database architectures that save you time and money as you grow. Whether you're automating internal processes or launching a groundbreaking product, Fabled Solutions has helped businesses of all sizes bring hundreds of ideas to life. Proudly Canadian, their commitment to excellence rivals anything you'd find in Silicon Valley. Ready to turn your vision into reality? Visit fabledsolutions.com to learn more about how Fabled Solutions can elevate your business. Fabled Solutions, because great ideas deserve extraordinary execution.